Um, Fred, would you be so bold as to kick us off with an update from your corner of the world?
My corner of the world is, it used to be hip deep in management plans, and now it's neck deep, and I'm swimming like hell, trying to do management plans both here and in the Sierra. And one of the things I've discovered is the difference between CAL FIRE requirements for a management plan and federal requirements for a management plan, and and seeing how we can get them to work together. Um, let's see, anything else? No, other than I'd like to have a discussion about the ERG report when it's appropriate.
Perfect.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Fred. All right, and then I'll send it over to Zoom. And Emma, would you like to give us an update from Conservation Works?
Hello, everyone. Good morning.
Just a moment.
Not too much to report. We are about to enter our 9th application period for the North Bay Forest Improvement Program for implementation work. That application opens up on July 8th and closes on August 5th. We also do have an announcement as we are reaching our last batches of funding and the end of our award cycle. We are closing our FMP incentive reimbursement application on June 26th. So that I believe that is next Friday. Yes, next Friday. And so please alert your channels if anybody was interested in applying for FMP incentive reimbursement funding, that application will be closing, and we hope to open it up again soon once NBFIP receives more funding, which we are actively searching for and applying for. And then the Forest Health Grant, we're working with Goldridge and Sonoma RCDs and multiple community agencies to submit a Forest Health Grant, which I believe we're going to talk a little bit about this towards the end of this meeting. So I'll leave it to that. And that's all from us.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay. Just realizing I don't need to be heard twice. All right. And how about Lulu?
Hi, everybody. My name is Lulu Wax. I work for Sonoma County Regional Parks. I haven't been to one of these meetings for many years. Typically, Brooke Edwards joins, and I do think he's coming, but might be a little late. But I'm sitting in on today's meeting specifically to hear about the invasive species grant and hear what others are thinking. I supervise a crew of people at regional parks that is responsible for our invasive species management. So we've been thinking a little bit about that grant, and I just want to hear what others are thinking on a broader level. So looking forward to that. I'll stop there. Yeah.
Okay, great to have you. It was super good to see you, and I'm glad to have you in the room.
Thank you.
And maybe Christopher, would you like to give an update?
Sure. Good morning, everyone. This is Christopher Seche in the room eating snacks, enjoying the snacks that are available today. It's a special opportunity. So I'm a landowner with a conservation easement, and just last year completed 4 years of NRCS grant work on 7 acres. And today and over the next few days, I have a crew continuing to expand beyond the grant work to try to keep hacking away at fuel reduction and forestry work. So happy to keep the work going, even though I don't really have a grant, but getting some support from a crew right now. So that's one thing. Also, besides being on the steering committee of this group, the Forest Conservation Working Group, on the steering committee of Bohemia Collaborative, and we're starting to plan our next steering committee meeting in July, perhaps, or August, depending on the members' availability during the vacation period. Still keeping indirectly involved with the Tannery Creek Reserve and work there with Bodega Land Trust on stakeholder engagement of the various neighborhoods that surround the reserve. That's probably enough for now. Thank you.
Recording in progress.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and use the screen. Sorry. The cameras aren't working today, so sorry about that.
Okay. And my visual cut out, but we'll get that back up and rolling. Why don't we go to Ben, Fire Safe Sonoma.
Good morning. So for the Fire Safe Sonoma update, what are we, 3 weeks ago now, Board of Soups moved forward with beginning the process to formalize an MOU between the county and Fire Safe Sonoma in partnership with our RCDs to bring the wildfire resilience coordination county-wide. So great movement there and super exciting for what opportunities lay ahead. And we're still working what that looks like with the county out as we go. Currently, short final with Sonoma RCD on a wildfire prevention grant ask up in the St. Helena Road corridor, Fector Sharp Gates. A phase two, basically, of the original work that was done with prior grant asks here recently. And then supporting all of our partners. This is the mad dash for the letters of support and projects coming into the system for both forest health and the wildfire prevention grants. A couple that we're getting ready to start a Fire Safe Sonoma specific PG&E grant, Wallace Road, here in the coming weeks. And then a handful of other grant opportunities that are coming out. But we took the team on the road here the last couple weeks throughout the county, working with all of the fire agencies and FireWise community leaders to introduce them to how to create projects to bring into the project portal that ultimately will be the foundation for the countywide CWPP update in 2028. I think those are the high level stuff. I'll turn it back to the group.
Okay, thank you so much. And let's go next to Kelly. Sorry, we're going to Kelly. And everyone, I apologize for what a cluster our technical presence is at this meeting today. Sorry, really sorry about that.
Sponsored by Ag and Open Space.
We are learning as we go. All right, Kelly, you're next.
Hi, I'm Kelly with Environmental Resource Solutions. I believe Lulu. Hello, I know you. You're my neighbor. ERS has been rather busy wrapping up veg management type projects and putting in for a couple of new permits that we're trying to get some harvesting going forward. And also from the Oddfellows point of view, because I have a dual role, we're part of the Forest Health Grant that is being submitted. And so we've been actively working with Sarah and Emma and the whole RCD team to try and keep this moving forward and give them the information they need for this large proposal. So OFRC is very excited about being part of this grant and hoping that we can get some more work done in our Russian River corridor. So that's kind of it for me today.
Awesome. Thank you, Kelly. Okay, great. And I just want to let you know that we had two folks walk into the room. So Kathleen Craft. Thank you, Kathleen Craft, and Judith Salas. So I'll do one more update from the Zoom room and then we'll move over to you all so you can give your updates. How about Jason Mills?
Hey everyone. Nice to see you all. Yeah, Ecological Solutions team has been busy as ever, wrapping up a bunch of invasive plant projects I'll be discussing in today's presentation, and then also doing some fuel reduction work, getting ready for fire season for HOA and getting ready for a roadside project, but more to come soon. Thanks, you guys.
Okay, great. Thank you. Oh, it looks like we got our video. Great. All right, Judy, you're next. Okay,
well, one right.
You just got settled, sorry.
A lot of road work being done. Well, we've been busy. We are kind of reorganizing, restructuring, thanks to the capacity grant. We met with Mark Tuckman yesterday, signed a contract to build a project dashboard for the North Coast. We just met with him yesterday, boundaries from Jenner to Annapolis in our planning area. In our active planning area. And then a phase 2 will go farther north to the areas that we've been working with, but not directly. And we're hoping that, that this can be a model for the larger county rather than, reinventing the wheel throughout, and keeps the data and its organization consistent. So we're excited about that. And we are putting in the CAL FIRE, Regional Wildfire and Landscape Resilience Grant and proposal. And I've been in touch with CAL FIRE and spoke with them about creating a hybrid model of working where we would act as a grant administrator for our partners who have the knowledge and expertise to plan, develop, and implement projects on their own. So we would actually serve as a block grant coordinator for that. And then for our other landowners and groups, we would take a more active role in doing what we're doing as we're doing it now. So that's a pretty big project. I have been in touch with CAL FIRE going through, our framework for it, making sure that it falls within their, their guidelines, and have gotten, good feedback. So we're actively working on that concept proposal right now and pulling in partners. Some of you may have received a letter from me already about what we're doing. So we're doing that. We're hiring an admin assistant who I met with last week, and I'm hoping that, that's going to really work out well. And then Fred and I are leaving for Scotland on August 1st. We'll be there. We'll be in the UK for 17 days, and I have meetings set up for us already with Scottish Fire and Rescue, Nature Scott, a couple of community forests, some community woodlands organizations, and a couple of landowners who have experienced big fires on their estates. So I'm just putting that itinerary together now. And next month, Fred and I are going to work on our plan and our, on filling up that itinerary. So yeah, we've just been moving forward, working, pulling it all together. And for those of you who, who might not be familiar, we had a fire on Brain Ridge last week. And Carol Ann happened to be looking out her window. She happened to be looking out her window and she saw the smoke. And so we watched it for about 20 minutes before anyone, came on scene. And it was pretty hairy. We have a GRMS radio group up there, and my husband's part of it. And because we had direct view, line of sight, they were going back and forth. But long story around, had we not done all of that work on Brain Ridge, thank you, Kim, and the county's vegetation management grant program, that whole ridge line was a mess. Wow. And I mean, before we did the work, it was just, you couldn't even drive through it without, branches hitting your tree. And had we not done all that work, that fire could have progressed and just really taken off. So thank you. And it was very huge. And so, but they showed up on scene. It only burned about 2 acres. And The word on the street, though I haven't received official knowledge yet, is that it was burn pile
Oh.
that had actually happened like a week or two before that.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it was right during that 100-degree weather we had. It was the next day. So it was, perfect conditions and, but disaster averted and everything is fine.
That's right. 2 acres prescribed burn, non-prescribed burn, right?
As far as yeah, and we did do the prescribed burn up there, but it's all of that, it was a non-prescribed burn. Yeah, it was, I'm just so grateful that we were able to treat that ridge.
Oh, that's great.
Big. Thank
You're gonna
you.
have to go to the board and tell them this is the value added, because that's one of the things I've discussed with Ann Prelock from Marin Wildfire Authority is like the evidence of success is a non-event.
Right.
And I think that's one thing that we never quite know how to celebrate is the non-events. And but that's an event that happened, and I think that's great that you guys were able to deal with that.
Yeah, and we're grateful to the program and, the programs that are helping us get this work done.
All right, thank you.
We have a
And-
blue ship.
Yeah, Ben has a question for you, or.
Just curious, Judy, did the fire hit the line or was it in proximity to?
I haven't been up there. I'm going to drive on Brain Ridge on the way home, but I'll send you a brief little update on that when
Cool.
Okay, thank you so much. And moral of the story, make sure your burn piles are out.
Well, they did. They thought they were.
Yeah.
And that's just what I heard. That's all anecdotal
right.
right now. I haven't heard any official announcement yet on what happened up there, but I'm gonna drive there on the way home.
Okay.
As Ben will say, it is under investigation.
It's under investigation,
Right,
yeah.
Ben? Back to the Cal Fire.
Until later.
That's right.
Okay, I'm gonna send it back over into the Zoom room and let's hear an update from Bryn.
Good morning, everybody. I'll hold off on my updates until the presentations later. Thanks.
Oh, okay, got it. And let's see, who else have I not called on yet? Jill?
Lauren?
Good morning, Jill Butler representing Gualala River Watershed Council. We started monitoring work last week. And other than that, we are beginning meetings with Judy and the Coast Ridge folks, and also folks from Ag Innovations who are also working in the Lake Sonoma watershed and part of Gualala River watershed to talk about how we can cooperate. And that's it for me.
All right, great to hear from you, Jill. Thank you. And then I'll send it over to Lauren.
Hey guys, Lauren with Sonoma Ecology Center. Our crew has been busy doing a lot of spring maintenance or late spring maintenance, mowing up at Sugarloaf, mowing at Montini to reduce fire risk. We are hopefully in the next few weeks, we will be starting several months of fire resilience work at Bartholomew Park down in Sonoma Valley, as well as a couple of stream restoration projects in the Calabasas Creek watershed. So we're looking forward to that. And Brandon and I have been doing a huge amount of landowner outreach and engagement that she is going to talk about at length, well, not at length, but more in depth in a little bit in preparation for a CAL FIRE Forest Health grant. So she will cover all of that. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Lauren.
Okay, sending it back into the room with Kathleen Kraft.
Hi, Kathleen Kraft. I live at Ocean Song Myers property, which is owned by Land Paths, and I have been engaged for decades in invasive control, mostly in grasslands. And so that's why I'm here. And personally, I've been dealing with large patches of spurge and velvet grass. And it's the right time to mow velvet grass, everybody. And I guess Land Paths has a big prescribed burn coming up in October. And we're still working on trying to get grazing back on the property. And they've done a bunch of patch burning, which seems very promising. I've liked the results of that, you know, burning in the thatch off in the late to middle spring. And the results that I've seen from that look quite good, much better than all the dead thatch anyway. And they've done a bunch of fuel load reduction up around the Serpentine and still trying to control the invasive grasses that are just starting to get into the Serpentine. In fact, there's been, to my eye anyway, a major recent increase in the perennial rye that's gotten into the Serpentine area, almost totally, not thick, but all over, which is very ominous because there are many rare plants in there. Anyway.
Oh, thank you for sharing. That's really interesting. Well, yeah, I'm looking forward to that presentation today too. And Kim.
Yeah, hi folks, Kim Batchelder, Ag and Open Space. So recently I've been doing site visits to some of the grantees that we awarded in February. And I'm really excited to announce that one of the projects, the Siri Tower, is complete. It was 18 acres of defensible space around a critical communication tower. It was a pretty heavy fuel load, many stems per acre, a lot of madrone, and ERS is the grantee, and they were able to do a bang up job with it was Gallegos Precision Forestry is the one that did the work on the ground. And then we had an interesting situation where there was a fair amount of fuel that was still on the ground. We did a lot of piles that CAL FIRE and folks will burn probably in the fall or winter. But we were really shocked about how much fuel was still on the ground. And a lot of it was madrone, which is excellent firewood. And so ERS was able to coordinate with the local firewood purveyor, and he came up and collected a lot of that firewood for use in communities at lesser means. And so we're excited about that use of a resource. No fiscal transactions were engaged, and so we're still compliant with the VTP. And then the other project I visited was out at the PPI, or can you pronounce it, please?
Padmasambhava Peace Institute.
Yes, that's with excellent accent. Thank you. So that's out on Fort Ross Road. As a continuation, you have a nice connection between the Mina's ranch property and a series of properties. They have done a lot of work on that property, and then it connects over almost all the way to Fort Ross Road once that fuel break is completed. And they're probably about 40% complete at this point. And then finally, visited Chief Tuberville's project up on Cloverdale and Geyser Road, up in the north, the District 4, up in the Mayacamas. And they've made excellent progress. They're probably about 75% of the work done across about a 5.2 mile shaded fuel break along those two roads. So areas that were very affected by previous fires. And so we're excited to see treatments on that particular landscape. So that's all I got today.
Thank you.
Does the fire break at PPI go down Russian Gulch? Are you including that?
No.
Route? Okay,
right. That's off their property, isn't it? Or
it connects their property with other properties, but it is one of the reasonable escapes from Navarro ranches and Valhalla ranches to the coast.
Okay.
And then we have a question from Jason who asks, does the Precision Forestry Company ERS use have a link or contact information?
I can get that to you. Yeah, thank you, Jason.
And the other thing about that fuel break over on PPI, it connects to the shaded fuel break that we did on the Muniz ranches.
Right.
That takes it almost right to the PPI. And then also we did 5 acres on the Jenner Headlands.
That's right.
So, yes.
Yes.
It's
and it's
PPI, Muniz Ranch, Wildlands Conservancy,
Wildlands
shared road.
Right.
Yes, and it's a major access road for anyone trying to get up Fort Ross Road, which is why that PPI road connection is so important.
That's right.
Yeah, so.
Ben, comment?
Yeah, just unofficially, that's an alternate route, right? Because the Prius factor that we need to make sure that we're not putting a bunch of people into a bad spot. But to answer Fred's question, although it doesn't get all the way out to Fort Ross, it picks up the maintained asphalt road from PPI up to Fort Ross Road. So it does connect into Fort Ross on the north end. And then it does tie into the top end of Munez. So Munez all the way out to Highway 1. So you've got a line from Highway 1, Munez Ranch Road out to Fort Ross Road.
Yeah.
Great.
I wanted to drop the Prius test so bad, Ben, but I knew you were gonna do it, so that's absolutely right.
Can't get away.
I can't get away, right?
I've got clients in Navarro ranches and I want to keep them safe.
Yeah, good. So it's exciting to me because it is quite a network of treated areas, and Judy's group certainly took the lead on Fort Ross Road. Jenner Headlands has done some spectacular work. And then the PPI was a logical connection point with the Munez ranches. And so it's, to me, really exciting to see the amount of development that's going on in that area.
Yeah, and the Munez Ranch is already, when we got involved with them, we were on stage 4. They had already done 3 segments.
Yeah.
And so it's been a process, but little by little, we're getting those ridges. And what we're including in this next grant is King Ridge, Ben, which I would like to talk to you a little bit about, doing the outreach on King Ridge Road. But that's our next project. I mean, it makes sense. It's the gap right now in that whole area.
Okay, great. And I'll provide an update real quick too, and I guess I can turn on my video.
It does put another question on the table, which I'd like to ask for a future agenda. Do you need a forester for a shaded fuel break to sign it off? Okay, we'll just leave it there.
Yeah.
That's an interesting question. Yeah, so Goldridge RCD, it is grant writing time. We're deep in it, and we're going to talk a little bit later about the forest health grants, which we're participating in a proposal from Conservation Works that Emma, I think, will talk about, and I'm happy to chime in there later in the agenda too. And then I also wanted to share, everything's happening so fast with these CAL FIRE grants. I feel like they don't give us a ton of time to respond to them. And like Judy said, that the
Regional Wildfire and Landscape Resilience.
Thank you.
Grant.
Regional Wildfire and Landscape Resilience
I know, it's a
program.
mouthful. Call it the regional grant.
Yes, yeah, the regional grant is a new grant program, and a really interesting program that I think is a good fit for our area for sure. So I'm really excited about it. And what's interesting about it too is that it's from what I've learned is that CAL FIRE really is looking for regional projects and proposals, and they want the proposal to line up with a regional plan that's already established. And they kind of want, like Judy, you said, they want the applicant to be able to kind of like administer a block grant and create a framework for taking in applications and administering grant dollars to the region. And so the North Coast region has for the entire North Coast of California, they have a collaboration of RCDs that has worked under Humboldt RCDs guidance and coordination. And we've already worked together as a collaborative for one proposal through the Coastal Conservancy, a block grant that we received from the Coastal Conservancy to do capacity building work across the North Coast. And that same group has recently decided, with Humboldt RCD as the lead, to put in an application for this program. And so our application is focusing on building a framework very similar, like Judy said, based on NCRP's regional plan and the priorities in the plan, to show that we can take applications from local entities, filter them through this kind of priority framework, and deliver grant dollars on the ground. So we're still kind of building that framework. I know there have been partners, including regional parks and Fire Forward and a few others I'm blanking on right now, who have said, like, let's do a proposal for Sonoma County. And I think, I know the clock is really ticking. That proposal's due at the end of the month. Pre-proposal, thank goodness, not a full proposal. And so I wanted to connect with that group again and let them know about this broader application that the RCDs are putting in, which shouldn't discourage us from doing a local application too, but it actually might be a good fit in that it's a scalable ask. So I think the maximum is 20 million. And so we figured we'll put together this framework and let the applicant, let CAL FIRE know that if they like what we put together, they can fund the whole North Coast through this RCD network. And then when we get closer to the full application stage, we can take project proposal ideas from all the local partners and kind of demonstrate how local projects would be ranked in the ranking system that we put together so that they can see how that would work. And so I'm kind of hoping that since it's a short timeline, we have just 2 weeks to put this together. I'm hoping that we can kind of quickly put together a framework like that and then invite you all to assist us with the full proposal if we're asked back for a full proposal. So I just wanted to let everyone know that. And also I know that group is going to have more meetings in the next couple of weeks, so we can talk more in detail about it then for sure. But yeah, that was my big grant writing update. There's also
and just to add to that, I did hear from Christine who wanted to, to talk so that, we're not duplicating efforts. We can expand on each other's, with the RCD. And I know I think she copied you. I know she said she copied the whole North Coast RCD
great
group. So I'm hoping to connect with her like soon.
Yes.
Any day.
Oh,
because,
good.
Well, the concept proposal is due at the end of the month.
Yeah.
So
perfect. Yeah, I know. I'm glad. I think that makes a lot of sense to make sure that they're complementary to each other.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I guess the only other thing is that, like Emma said, we're continuing to look for funding for the North Bay Forest Improvement Program because that funding expires at the end of next year, and we want to keep that program going and growing. And so there's another CAL FIRE grant that's coming out a little later this summer with a very similar name. It's Wildfire Resilience, I think, or Landscape Resilience.
No, this is the landscape resilience.
Okay, it has another, it has a
The Wildfire Resilience Block Grant. So it's specifically the block grant.
Block grant. Thank you. So
and we looked at both, and but we had started working on the landscape one over a month ago. And so that's one of the things when I connect with Christine, just look at where does it make sense for us to work collaboratively, and how can these projects complement one another, how, in whatever direction we go.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot of work.
It's a ton of work.
Landscape.
Yes. And the applications are a ton of work too.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, I just wanted to share those. And I think I'm the last person to provide an update unless there's anyone else I missed. Maybe the phone number.
I think that's Jill.
Oh, okay, that's Jill. Okay.
Bryn's already, she can speak.
Yes, Bryn will share more later. Okay. All right, great. Then I think we're ready for our presentation from Jason. Jason, are you in a good spot? And do you need help with screen sharing or anything?
Hi, Adriana. Yeah, I'm in an okay spot. I'm actually traveling with my kids on a camping trip in Bend, and I had to relocate to a hotel with some Wi-Fi. So hopefully this works out, but I think I'm good to go. All right, I'm gonna hit share screen here. Hit allow. Let me know if you see the screen.
Are those Western Red Cedar?
Oh, share. Okay.
There we go.
Okay,
Whoa.
good. Play from start. Are we good?
Oh,
Fantastic. Yeah, looks good.
Okay, fantastic. All right, guys. Yeah, excited about this one. We've been doing so much work. It's always great to share and learn and spread the effectiveness of invasive plant control, because we're really up against it, you guys. I mean, between the development itself, pretty much paving over nature, and then the footprint of that development expanding out from all of our roads and structures where we introduce invasive species from around the world, they're actively displacing habitat and we're losing diversity at large. Oh, see here. Boom. Okay, good. So this disturbance does lead to invasion, right? And we can see evidence of this just basically along every road cut. A lot of times it's where equipment is used because unfortunately a lot of times big equipment is full of seed from other areas that have histories of disturbance, and then that seed gets dislodged and placed into the masticators and blades and tracks of big equipment, so it actively spreads wherever that equipment goes, every power line, you name it. That's where we oftentimes find the sources of these invasive species. And why are invasives a big deal? Well, they form monocultures, right, of just one species. And you can see evidence of this in the brooms or the star thistles or a bunch of invasive species we're facing in the West. And yeah, so it's basically eliminating biodiversity as they sprawl. And the diversity is pretty incredible we have here in Sonoma County. I mean, across all of California, we have something between 5 to 7,000 native species, and it's thought that Sonoma might be home to 2 to 3,000 of those native species. And so they're really hanging on in these wild places, and the work we do highly impacts them. And so when I step into managing an invasive plant, it's very important to map the distribution of the plant. And then if you're going to start doing work on the plant, it's really important to track that work and mapping where the efforts are so other people down the line can see where efforts have been allocated and pick up off of those efforts. And when I'm mapping big areas, like this was a 300-acre ranch in Point Reyes, we used Art Collector, their app Field Collector, and we were able to cover those 300 acres and find roughly 60 acres of Scotch broom distributed among that 300 acres in about a day using the tablet and just throwing points and polygons. And then we track all of our work through an app called CalFlora, which is a great database for vegetation management. And you guys have probably seen this before, the invasion curve. So this gets looped in with what we call EDRR, early detection and rapid response. And basically, the sooner we are able to locate either newly emergent invasive species that are just starting to get a foothold in California, or invasive species that are already rampant throughout the county, but are now occurring in new locations. And so if we can jump on those early, we can save a ton of resources and control them most effectively. And you guys have seen, where these plants are kind of getting a foothold is oftentimes roadsides. And then from there, they kind of launch into the woods and makes it more and more challenging to stop them. So before we begin work on a project, we like to track the infestation to the source and address it from the source so we're not wasting resources downstream or downhill where the seed bank or seed source is continually contaminating where the efforts are. And when we get going into it, what we're doing is we do it by species. So that's actually what I'm going to dive a little deeper on today is, all the considerations per invasive plant. Is this plant an annual? Is it, surging in the spring, releasing a bunch of seed in the early summer? Or is it perennial with deep roots and it's just going to keep coming back? And so when we look at those reproductive cycles and the distribution cycles, we can jump in and interrupt them if we treat them during the most optimal times. And the big one, we're all looking for answers on how to do most effectively are the brooms. And the brooms are oftentimes misunderstood, but they are all foreign legumes, mostly from Europe. And the one that really plagues us the most is French broom, which is Genista montespeciolana. The other brooms, the cytisus and also the Spanish broom, have very deep tap roots, bigger flowers, bigger seeds, less seeds, so they kind of move slower. The French broom erupts quickly, has anywhere from a foot to 2 feet of growth per year, and one plant can make about 5,000 seeds when they reach maturity, which is anywhere from 10 to 15 feet tall. So it's quite a ladder fuel threat in addition to being an invasive species. So we jumped into a pretty large scale French broom control project thanks to the Sonoma RCD funded by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. And they got a wonderful grant for post-fire invasive control. And this was up in the headwaters of Mill Creek, up Palmer Creek. And this is a little interesting. I wanted to show you guys this because I think this is really important. So when we got the original polygons, it was the area that was highlighted in yellow there on the left. And then when I worked with the project manager with the RCD, and we really wanted to maximize the effectiveness of our efforts. So what we did was we pulled LiDAR maps, and that allows us to look at the terrain. And then we were looking at basically the drainages and how to most effectively treat the broom to keep it out of certain drainages so the seed won't just move back in, because broom moves with water and equipment. So if we can drive it out of the drainage, it should stay clean for a while. And so this is what we did here. This was probably the biggest manual control effort we've taken on. It was 15 acres altogether. And we traced the ridge line and then we pulled it all the way over. And it seems very daunting when you step into it, but these were about 8 to 10 foot plants coming back after the Wallbridge fire. So they had about 6 years to establish. And it was good to jump on them now before they get even worse and put more seeds down in the soil. So, they came out pretty easy. It's what I call virgin broom, where it's never been mowed before. And an 8 foot plant has sometimes, as little as a 4 inch taproot. And we jumped on it once the rainy season hit in November. And we pulled all the way through from November to about the end of January. And we were able to conquer 15 acres in 3 months. And this is really what it looked like, was like an impenetrable wall of broom. It was so thick that you couldn't actually walk through it. So we learned the land as we pulled, and it was quite an effort. And here you can see we hit it on both ends, and then we got all the way across the middle swath, and then we finally got the stuff at the bottom, which was kind of easier stuff, even though it looks super dense and crazy. It was pretty accessible and easy to get to. And then we didn't waste any money on disposal, right? We didn't haul it all off. We didn't burn it. It didn't have any seeds on it. So we just laid it down right where it was to rot and decay. And when we finished, there was probably about 2 feet of pulled broom duff. And then now, after about 6 months of rain and decay, there's less than 2 inches on the ground. So it was highly effective for erosion control and just saving all the resources for treatment itself. And then getting into all the different treatments, mowing broom is appealing to a lot of people because it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. But it will, in my experience, about 90% of the time grow back with twice the size taproot. So this image on the left shows a bunch of stalks kind of emerging out of a mowed plant. And then what we've been doing lately is going around with our propane torch and sizzling the seedlings. So if you have a bunch of broom to treat in a narrow window, you can do a big old manual treatment and then come back and nail all the seedlings. The image in the middle shows a wilted one, and that's really what you need to do. You don't need to burn them or combust them. You just leave the flame torch on there for a couple seconds till you hear a little bursting of the cell walls, and then it's done. And we like to do it when the conditions are right and it's wet, and then we follow around, with a 5-gallon water pump pack too, just to make sure it doesn't get away. And then this is up on another property adjoining. And here it was an access road, a fire road that had been mowed, I think, a few times. And so the roots on this French broom were quite thick and quite difficult to remove in the rocky soil. So we went with a spray treatment. And, I just got our pest control license, pest control business license, and qualified applicator license. And what we did was we used the lowest concentrations possible, the combination of a foliar and systemic herbicide. So as little as 2% concentration. and we use the blue dye to mark everything as we go, and we use more protection than is required, and we take enough time to do the mixing properly and the cleanup properly. So it does narrow your work window, but we take care of our staff and minimize any sort of exposure and really take our time when we're doing the application itself. And so the image on the right, you can see the dead broom. And what I love about this image is you can see all the trees still alive. So that shows that the application was quite effective and we weren't getting drift, right, with any sort of winds to carry that to either the applicator or the surrounding vegetation. And then Scotch broom, much different beast, giant roots. This was for a homeowner off of a Seaview up there, and a really nice guy. He didn't want any chemicals used on his ranch, so we did it manually. And he had mowed it for I don't know how many times, but the roots went really deep. So we chose the wettest time of year, and we had to use our weed wrenches on this one and grab them and yoink them right out. But we were able to take out about an acre population in about, I think it was 3 days because it was pretty tough going. But it had come in on a power line. We got about 90% out by the roots. So it was a good effort, a good project for us. And then this is one that we generally recommend for Scotch broom, which has the massive roots, which is the classic cut and paint treatment. And this is that infestation out in Point Reyes. And what we do is it can be a little challenging if you're doing too much cutting and you can't keep track of the painting. And so what we do is we match a painter with every cutter. And what we do is in this case, we used big loppers. We take that plant out and then we just apply the chemical directly to the cambium of the plant. And that saves us a lot of time. So it doesn't use that much chemical as compared to a boom application or a backpack spray application. The paint application really minimizes the amount of chemical required, but that systemic herbicide goes in and actually kills the vascular action in the root system.
Hey, Jason, what product did you use?
Oh, maybe we can talk offline about that, Kim.
Yeah,
I have
sure.
my recipe, but it's such controversial stuff with these chemicals, but I'll just keep it to broad brushstrokes. It was a systemic at 2% and then a foliar down to 0.5%.
Okay,
So very
thanks.
low concentrations, but please email me if anybody or contact me if you'd like the specifics. Um, other plants that are trees, invasive trees that really require a cut and paint treatment. Otherwise, you're going to need to come back and cut it again and again. I don't know how many times if it'll ever kill it, but on the left here is a blue gum eucalyptus stand that was cut down. It's not inexpensive to remove blue gum eucalyptus, but it's a wonderful thing to do because it sucks up all the water out of the land. And it's an invasive tree. They're basically like big flame torch trees, and they throw spot fires when the flames get into the canopy. So they're a really good thing to prioritize and take care of. So again, what we do is chainsaw those down and get a treatment around the cambium there of the tree with our cut and paint. And then here on the right is a privet, the glossy leafed privets. Those are kind of everywhere in the wooey and spreading quickly. So we like to try to get those gone. Other invasive menaces out there are we have a few acacias, but this one's the most prolific, the silver wattle acacia. You see that in March, kind of with all the yellow flowers. And then tree of heaven is a real menace in our riparian forests. And this one, if you cut, will actually spread out and spread more. So very important to give a cut and paint treatment to these. Now, moving on to other treatment types, we guys probably all know about English ivy. It really thrives in shaded environments, and we had a pretty big one on this one. It was about a 4-acre infestation of English ivy of different life stages. Some were quite old, some were newer. So we first thing we did was sever all of the growth going up the trees, because if you do that, it prevents them from spreading through reproduction and more berries. So we cut it off all of the trees, and then we go back and actually manually pull it out by all the roots. And again, on something like this, there's no disposal required. We just make piles of it and it rots down on itself. And through the handwork, we're able to preserve the other understory species in there. It's a lot of work, but it's really important to do to preserve the understory in these nice coniferous forests. And then there are all the thistles. It's kind of prime thistle time out there. They're all launching.
I wanted to go back to the ivy real quick and
Oh
ask
yeah,
you a question. Do you,
sure.
I had heard that ivy can sprout from its stem, so even like the cut like leaves can potentially root if they have ground contact. Has that been your experience, or is it pretty much dead
Well,
once you hold it?
that's a great question. There's a couple ivies out there, right? There's Cape ivy, which has the Lisa Simpson haircut, and it's kind of lime green, and that's very prevalent on the coast and in riparian forests. And that one will reroot like crazy. So on that one, when we pull it, we actually have to bag up every piece of plant material.
Okay.
English ivy is not as vigorous. I haven't seen it re-sprout, but basically it's a unique plant because it has different life stages. Its juvenile stage, it covers the ground and spreads through clonal growth. And then once it hits its adult life, it starts climbing. That's when it produces the flowers and spreads through seed set. So that's its main, it has like kind of two methods of spreading, clonally and through seed set. But this is one we don't see re-root as much as maybe the Cape ivy you might be thinking of there.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's a tough one, Cape ivy. I didn't include them all. There's a lot. But the thistles are also a menace, especially right now out in the grasslands. And every thistle kind of requires a different treatment. Yellow star thistle, it's the most noxious weed in all the West, right? It covers more hectares than any other invasive species between here and the Rockies. And then on our coast here, we have tons of Italian thistle, Carduus pycnocephalus. That's one that comes up first in March and then keeps surging with the rains in April and May. And it has this little tiny root. So generally we treat that like an annual grass and just mow it repeatedly to prevent it from setting seed. And it is an annual. The star thistle is a biennial. The bigger thistles out there, the milk thistle and the bull thistle, those we let them form a big bolt, and then right before they're about to shift from flower to seed, we just cut them with machetes down, and oftentimes that'll just exhaust the energy of the plant and they will perish. For star thistle, we've been able to knock out emergent populations by manually bagging them, and they are biennial. So you can see the size of the root on the in the middle picture there. Really helps if you have some really beefy gloves like welding gloves and small hand picks. But one plant, has so many seeds in it. It's capable of producing like 7,000 seeds in one plant. The plants, the seed doesn't move all that far. It is wind dispersed, but it goes about, I think it's 30 meters. So they do kind of stay put. And the timing is important to get them before they launch that seed, which is right about now. And so we just bag them up and get rid of them that way. And then here's another nasty one out in the grassland. So this image on the left, you can see these three kind of similar inflorescences. The one on the right is foxtail hordeum. The one in the middle is Medusa head, and the one on the left is barbed goat grass. And so as these grasses dry, those awns kind of turn more horizontal and bristly, and they're very tough on livestock. So they degrade ranching lands and our grasslands for recreation, where they poke us and get in our pets' fur and our socks. So they're just kind of nasty weeds out there. This one again was a post-fire effort out on Rancho Mark West, and we were able to bag up, I think, about 500 pounds of barbed goat grass over the last 2 years. And barbed goat grass contains, well, 500 each year, so about 1,000 pounds total. And barbed goat grass is a 2-year effort. When it dehisces seeds, it'll have a flush in the first year, and then half the seeds stay dormant and emerge in the second year. So anytime you're going after goat grass, it's a 2-year process. And then these are the plants, these grassland weeds that are super effective for prescribed fire. And this, in my mind, is truly good fire. It would be wonderful if we got out ahead of these prescribed fires and did native seed collection within the burn units. So then we are able to, reseed the good grassland natives after the fire. Because a lot of times the fire will burn over, that seed bank will flush up, and you'll see what that land use history is. But Medusa Head, we did this on Van Hoosier on the right with Sonoma Ecology Center back in 2020 and 2021, I think it was. And it was highly effective. It dropped it by 99% when we burned that 20-acre field. And you have to do that. The timing is quintessential. So kind of mid-May, you see the fluorescent green among all the other naturalized Sinest uh, annuals kind of dying back. And so that's the time to get it when the seed head is up. If there's enough duff in there, it'll also roast and fry the seeds. So prescribed fire, highly effective for these plants. Medusa head, you can get a very high kill in just one burn. Yellow star thistle, the research was done by UC Davis up on Sugarloaf, requires 3 sequential burns to drop it by 99%. But through using prescribed fire, you're able to actually increase your native plant diversity by 15% with these treatments. So timing the prescribed fires and using the prescribed fires for invasive plant control is a wonderful thing. This is the one I really wanted to present to you guys. This is a very under recognized, I think, I want to say valued, underrated invasive species that's a true menace. Here you can see on the left this kind of yellow cover. I wish it were a native plant because it's kind of pretty, but what it does is form a monoculture where it drives out all plants. So it will eradicate all native plant diversity where it exists, and it will not stop. So we caught it right on the Myakama Ridge coming down into Sonoma County, and we got backed up by the Sonoma RCD, and we went in and we went after it. And this was the plant that drove me to get my pesticide license in our QAL because we tried to manually treat it and it kind of liked being disturbed and it actually spread more after manual treatment. And since it spreads underground through rhizomes, I knew we were going to need a systemic herbicide to get it. And so we timed it just right. And man, there was so much of it. We think we probably had to cover about 5 acres of oblong spurge. And it had multiplied from the time I saw it post fire in 2021. I think its acreage had doubled. And it's kind of tragic to see it over on the Napa side where it is just sprawling like crazy with yellow star thistle and just overtaking all of the grasslands there. So this was a big one. We're really happy to be able to treat. And here you can see the effectiveness of it. Not an easy project. When you wear these Tyvek suits, it gets incredibly hot. So we started around 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, and then we wrap up by lunch and do all our cleaning and get ready to clean all the equipment and take all the suits off and make sure nobody got any exposure. And it's a tough job, but it's a very important plant to control.
How would
Jason?
that respond to fire?
It's interesting. Its roots are so deep and it's not annual, right? It's perennial. So if you were to just burn it off, unfortunately, as with many perennial invasive species, it would actually like it, right? Because it would take in that nutrients from the fire and then grow back with more vigor. So you could set back its seed set if you time that fire properly. But I would worry that, I like to think of fire as a process rather than a disturbance. But I think if you were to kind of level the playing field there, it would shift the advantage over to the euphorbia regrowth and it would surge more. But that would be a great area of research.
Yeah.
Could you flame the seedlings and kill them?
That's also a really good question because we are seeing seedlings. We didn't know if it was spreading just clonally or from seed set, and it looks like it's doing both. So that's why I'm really worried about the oblong spurge. And I do think new seedlings, it'd be worth propane torching them and seeing if it could kill it off. The other thing about spraying oblong spurge is it has a very waxy or glaucous leaf. So we have to use a surfactant, which we use a mineral oil, which allows the chemical to actually bind to the leaf, or it rolls off, right? So that's important to think about when you're trying to do a spray on an invasive. This
Jason
one,
Lulu has a question.
oh,
Oh,
great,
just
great.
yeah, what is the time of year for that herbicide application?
Whew, great question, because it's a nasty plant. And you got to get this right because holy moly, it matures quickly, right? So it's biennial, but no, not biennial, it's perennial. So but it has a really quick flower to seed turnover. And it tends to happen, I would say, from late April. I mean, it changes year to year, but late April is really when you see the yellow flowers coming out. The second you see the flowers, I'd hop on it and get
Right.
after it because we did just that. And it was interesting to see what happened. It tried to produce seed, and then a fungus actually moved in and started eating the dying tissues when the plant was decaying. And so that was kind of nice to see. And I think we got it all before that seed was able to mature. You know, we usually pop it open and look to see if the seed coat has changed color. And if that seed coat is formed, then generally the seed is viable. But it would be another great area of research to do some seed bank studies on that to see how long that seed is viable, right? So that's a great thing to do.
Another fun fact about oblong spurge is that it irritates the skin. So it's like poison oak in that sense.
And then
Yeah, a
I've
lot
also
of
read that they closed ranches in up in Wyoming and Montana because of the spread of the spurge, and they just had to close the ranch.
Wow.
yeah, many of these plants are actually full of poisonous chemicals and compounds and are really hard on wildlife through either their fruits or their tissues. Oblong spurge, it has that milky sap. We didn't get any sort of skin agitation, but I've heard that it does do that.
Don't get it in your eyes.
Oh yeah. Yeah, some stuff, you got to be careful when you're mowing it and then it sprays everywhere, such as poison hemlock, which I left out of this one, but that's one to be really careful of. This plant's super nasty. I'm sure you guys have seen this up and down the coastline, the cordillerias, right? That we have got a pampas grass overload here in San Francisco. People seem to love it for some reason with the razor sharp leaves and the super nasty qualities it has. But anyhow, we also have a ton of jubata grass, which is like a lesser version of pampas grass. And they both grow really quick, have super nasty root systems. These plants, when the wind hits it, the seeds disperse for miles. And basically, if they land anywhere where there's saturated soil, they will germinate. So you can see them starting up in ravines and then they kind of pick up from there and they'll fill entire wetlands. And so that's what they did at this picture on the right in the Corte Madera Marsh, where there was a 9-acre infestation. And on this one, they had tried mowing it, it grew back. They had tried burning it, it grew back. So I was like, you know what? Let's freaking rip this stuff out with an excavator. And so that's what we did. We went at it with a mid-size excavator, which was actually super fun. There was a Takeuchi with air conditioning and a radio in there. So the crew was fighting over who got to use it. And it was great training for the crew. Yeah, the main thing I would recommend is, you get the bucket attachments to the mast or to the excavator head, and it can be really a ton of different ones. But if you're going to get that bucket, make sure it has the thumb on there so you can really grab it. And the challenge was, we would hedge trim them down, make sure there was no animals in there, and then we would grab them with the arm. And then as we ripped it out, we'd actually try to flip it in the air and have it land with the roots up to the sun. And so it just got cooked through the summer. These plants are from the south. They originate in the Andes, and so their flowering cycle is reversed to ours. So they actually flower in the winter, and so it's good to get after them at the end of the summer and or midsummer. Let make sure those roots are cooking out if you go with this technique, but it worked wonderfully. I just went back. We did 3 acres per year over 3 years. And holy cow, there was probably, I want to say, 5,000 plants. I just went back and there was less than 20. And in the wetland, all the water, it changed the whole hydrology of the wetland and the water came back. And there were migratory birds in there. It was kind of unbelievable. So I would highly recommend the mechanical control for pampas grass and jubata grass. You can dig them up when they're young. It's tough. You can spray them. That is generally what I've been told to do in the past. If you do it, it's a lot like a rundo, where if you spray it, it'll look dead for 3 years and then it'll actually grow back in the third year. So just make sure you account for that and go back. It'll be like a few little sprouts you can get with a fraction of the amount of chemical, and just make sure it's gone. Okay, getting towards the end here. So what I did is I kind of created this calendar. It's an invasive treatment calendar by species. I can share this. It's available on different resources. But I tried to kind of color code it by ease of treatment. So green is like do it yourself, just go after it. Blue is kind of if you're a little more ambitious, and red is you might want to hire somebody to do it because it's either toxic or dangerous. Judy, I actually saw you raise your hand there in the picture. You have a question on that one? Or?
Go ahead.
Okay, I was wondering if you, what you learned about the invasive on the Bowen Ranch. And what Nikki's doing out there to, to deal with it.
Yeah. There, when you get into ranching, it's a whole different culture. And really, I come from, a different background where I'm coming at it from an ecological perspective to kind of manage diversity for wildlife, right? But when you're in ranching, you want to maximize grass productivity for livestock productivity. So these noxious weeds pose a threat to your financial well-being. And when that's the case, some pretty aggressive chemicals can be used. And a lot of times people will, have not a lot of resources to contain these things through manual mechanical treatments. And so they'll end up using pretty strong chemicals. Ones that are out there that I don't generally use but are effective are things called pre-emergents. And so I believe on the Bowen Ranch, they have had success using pre-emergent chemicals. And those chemicals you actually apply before the plant has started to rise from the soil and before the seed has emerged. And it just kills all of the seeds before they're able to emerge. And you can select pre-emergent chemicals that are specific to plant families, right? So you can choose an aster specific chemical or a grass specific chemical. But if you're going to do those sort of treatments, it's incredibly important to map those populations before you apply the pre-emergent, so you know specifically where to spray that chemical, right? So I actually didn't get out to the Bowen Ranch, but I did advise Nikki, and she has been working with Wilbur Ellis to dial in the right chemicals to do those applications. So
Right.
that's where she's been with it.
And Jason, there was a request from Caitlin if you can share the chart with us somehow.
Yeah, totally. If anybody emails me, or Caitlin knows very well the vegetation handbook, which has changed names a couple times. I don't know the most recent one, but that it's live on that link. And I can
Tending the
also
land.
Tending the land. Thank you, Kim. Yes, tending the land. Wonderful. It's up on
I
that
have a
one.
tattoo on mine.
I should get one too. We'd be buds.
Yeah, it is there. I just wasn't sure if this might have different info. But
Yeah, totally. You know what I'd love to do, Caitlin, is tailor this to the property. So get out there, walk the whole site. Oh, you got this one, this one, this one, this one. Now let's prioritize it and create a calendar for this land preserve or this mega ranch or this Firewise community, right?
Nice.
Great idea, Jason.
Oh
And
yeah,
also
it's so,
the
so
the
useful.
blooming periods are so different from the coast to the inland area that you need it.
It's true. There is a lot of variation between our massive Sonoma County. So yeah, they sometimes they behave and sometimes they're all over the place. And with climate change, it seems to change quite a bit just in the 25 years I've been doing it. So yeah. So there's that. And then, let's draw in the people. Let's get the people involved. So this was a wonderful Broomapalooza event. Thanks to Judy and Coast Ridge Community Forest Group out there. And Fire Safe Sonoma. Such a nice tool trailer. And just like, I think it was we were out there for 2 hours, we got a pretty good pile done. So I think, if we had more people doing this more often, we could be ahead of the game. So I
Nice.
would just love to see this sort of cultural shift. Someone said to me recently, I guess I'll just go ahead and say this. Oh, taking care of all the plants, isn't that just for like hippies? And I was like, ooh, how do I respond to that one? And I said, yeah, I don't think of it so much as like hippie work as like land stewardship work. Like before we were here, we've been here with West for 400 years. Indigenous people were here for 10 to 15,000, taking care of this land because they had to survive. So we need to get back to that way of living if we're going to take care of our wild lands. That's not hippie business. That's basically engaging
Stewardship business.
land stewardship business. Yes, and by all means, hippies, everybody come along. We need everyone. All right.
And one last thing, Jason,
Oh,
I
yeah,
wanted
yeah.
to, first of all, I want to thank you and acknowledge you. I mean, every time I see something, I see you're out there dealing with invasives in broom, and I don't know how much you are responsible for all the broom that's been removed from this county, but I'm sure it's been a lot. So thank you.
Thanks, Gary.
Yeah, and the other thing I want to say about, just about this community work, obviously this is going to become an annual for us. And what we heard, the feedback we got was the community going out there, and I know other communities do the same thing, but working together and seeing the response and seeing the difference of everybody getting together. They said, we had more fun than anything. It didn't even feel like work. Having a partner like PPI who fed us all afterwards, and local acoustic musicians who came and played music, and it really turned into an event. But that's my point, is that bringing the communities together like this, I mean, that's so important. And I do see it happening all over. I know we're not unique, but to us, this has been great.
Oh yeah, you can get some exercise. I mean, why not bring a band out? They do it in Monterey Bay. The local college brings the band class out to play for the volunteers as they're removing invasives in the dunes. I think it's a
Oh.
wonderful idea. It doesn't have to be a drag. It's tough work, but God, if we just shifted everyone from spending their money to go to the gym to getting in their watershed and start doing
Exactly.
some work. Yeah, it's a great way to stay fit.
So to summarize, I think what you're saying is that Trump got it wrong. It's not take rakes to the forest, it's take broom out of the forest.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a
Yeah.
good one, Phil.
Thank you very much, Jason. We
Oh
really
yeah,
appreciate
yeah.
it.
Let me wrap. Brooke has his hand up here.
Hey, you guys are you're sounding like hippies with the music festival that you want to put on. Hey, Jason, I had a quick question for you. When you're dealing with a wall of broom like that, which is amazing to see those photos, how do you keep your employees from, getting like repetitive kind of injuries with yanking all that broom out? Any tricks of the trade?
Yeah, Brooke, that's a wonderful question. From doing this work for 25 years now, one thing that I've done is I try to hire people right off the bat that like doing physical work, right? Because you can do it for a little bit, but do you really like doing it? And my staff tells me, Jason, stop feeling bad for us. We like doing this, okay? And so that's just refreshing to hear. Okay, I'm not hurting you guys, but I do check in with them all the time. I mean, I'm out there with them half the time, so I can tell when I'm blistering up. But it's like give them the right equipment so they have what they need, right? So leather gloves. Are we hydrated? Are we taking breaks? Are we resting our backs? Are we speaking up if someone's ailing? If someone's hurting, you don't have to hurt yourself. Slow down. Somebody else will step up. And the other thing I do that's not very popular with the clients, but I build in the transportation time into the 8-hour workday. So then you're really looking at 6 hours on the site. That's my kid belly flopping. But with 6 hours on the site with an hour of collective breaks. So then it's a 5-hour workday. And I feel like that's reasonable, right? To pull broom for 5 hours, that's possible, right? And then the other thing is we only do 4-day days. So Monday to Thursday, right? So then you got the 3-day weekend to recharge. And then what I also try to do is mix up the work, right? So we're mowing one week, we're pulling the next, so it's really great. Or planting, just diversifying what the team's up to. And then throwing a big old party when you're done, going to get, some watermelons and some tacos or whatever it is to keep the spirits going and just make sure, you're taking care of your people. But that's really been my secret to success. We haven't had a single injury in all the years of doing this because I know how much my back hurt when I did it through my 20s, and I've seen people burn out and go down, like one thing is I'll just say that 4 10s, right? The 10-hour days, that's brutal. That's brutal on your people. It sounds great. Oh yeah, we all got a 3-day weekend. But that makes your 10-hour workday 8 hours of labor on the ground. And that's when I see people go down. And it gets real dangerous in the summer when heat picks up. And now you've got heat exhaustion on top of it all. So yeah, I'm glad you asked that question because real deal, it's tough. It's tough. And I was taught early on by my conservation course supervisor, the work should build you up, not break you down. So that's the tipping point, right? It's different for everybody.
Thanks.
Yeah, you got it. Got it. Okay, I got to
I have
leave
a
you with this
question.
pretty picture.
One more
Okay, one
question.
more question. Okay.
Thank you. Jason, thank you so much for that great presentation. You're obviously just a tome of knowledge on all these species and various techniques. I had one specific question about the flame torching of broom seedlings. I'm super curious about that. I don't think that's like a tool that we have in our tool belt at the moment, but like how quickly are you walking? How much land can you cover with that technique?
That's a great question. So we just started really using it a lot. And I'll say, here's some tips. Get the smallest propane tank you can get, not the one for your camping stove, but like one size up, because the propane weighs a ton. So when you have that on your back, we use the little ones whenever we're going up hills, and then we do one size bigger when we're on the flatlands.
Mm.
And the other thing is to have the person trailing with the water pack, looking to make sure you didn't miss any. Because unlike herbicide, you can see where you got with the blue dye. With the propane, you can't as much because it takes the plants a while to wilt. So you just really want to be very careful as you go. So I would say it's slow going. Um, I would say we shoot for like a half an acre a day of propane torching, which is usually the mark we try to hit for a lot of our invasive plants. And the propane lasts a really long time. We get the most BTU 4-foot wands possible, so it kicks out a really strong flame. And from 4 feet away, you don't really get any of those fumes, so it's pretty good for the applicator. I haven't had anyone complain about it, and I haven't had any issues doing it. And yeah, the tanks last longer than you would think, and it seems to be really good. One thing I did hear is that it's very tempting to just start torching everything. So when you're out there and you're getting the little ones, you're like, oh, here's a 3-footer we missed. I'm just gonna torch this one. It'll look like it's dead, and then it'll rebolt. So it's very similar to being mowed. So it's really only effective for the seedlings. But you
Mhm.
can get those seedlings anywhere from the fall to the spring, depending on
Mhm.
where they're flushing, because they
Mhm.
go it through the whole wet season.
And do you prefer that method over like a foliar spray of the seedlings?
I do, as from just I try to, the tools in the toolbox.
Yeah.
I try to save the chem for when nothing
Yeah.
else works,
Yeah.
or it's much more financially effective, right? And so
Yeah.
if it's very much more financially effective, then yes. But if it's about the same, and the thing with chemicals is you got to think about canceling, right? Because if the winds come up over 10 miles per hour, you shut down the whole project. So usually what I'll do is I'll go out and I'll have a backup, right? So I'll bring some string trimmers. So if the wind shuts us down, we shift over to something else, you know?
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, you got it. Okay. Yeah, please, if there are any other questions, please reach out to me, contact me. I'd love to help. That's what I'm here to do. And a lot of people are like, "Oh, you're evil, killing all these plants." But we are killing plants, to save our natural heritage, which took hundreds of thousands of years to take on these various forms to create the beauty that we see out there, which is the web of life, and it's up to us to take care of it. All right. Oh, and then this is a whole nother thing. I'll actually save this for a whole nother presentation. But once you get the bad guys gone, what comes next? It's all ecological niche functions. If we have legumes, let's put in good legumes. There are tons of awesome ones out there. Okay. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you, Jason.
Got it.
Thank you, brother.
Anytime.
Awesome. Well, people can still, of course, reach out to Jason with more questions and dive deeper on these individual species because there's so much. I know there's a lot of detail. There's so much to discuss with each of them. Next on our agenda, we're gonna open it up just briefly to talk about this Prop 4 funding for invasive species removal. I think Lulu, you mentioned wanting to have a chat about that. Rose isn't able to be here today, but she did prepare me with some notes on that grant, and I'm going to just share those on the screen real quick. Let's see. Here we go. So the Invasive Species Council of California has this Prop 4 grant for invasive species removal. And the proposal will open for applications in July and close in August. Folks will be awarded in November, and then grants will start in February. And the emphasis is on projects that restore and protect biodiversity and ecosystem health. Priority will be given to projects that are species specific, time sensitive, new, if possible, the species is new to a geographic region, and that the project you do is likely to actually prevent the establishment of that species in that place. So it's not so much about like, maybe broom isn't a good candidate for this program because it's widespread already. It's more about like identifying, if possible, new invasions that are early on that can be tackled. I think that this grant is only 36 months, so that's kind of a lot to do in a short amount of time, but yeah. Projects shall minimize the economic, ecological, and human health impacts caused by invasive species and restore and protect biodiversity, with particular attention to projects providing direct and meaningful benefits to disadvantaged communities, severely disadvantaged communities, and vulnerable populations. Funded projects may include, but are not limited to, management actions for preventing introduction of invasive species, the control, containment, or eradication of an invasive species, outreach, education, and research related to invasive species. And individual grant awards can range from $250,000 to $1 million. Maximum grant duration is 36 months, and everything needs to be done by that end date. And then you can see how the scoring is done. To be eligible for the grant, you have to be one of these entities. And I think that's all we have. So yeah, open it up for discussion if anyone would like to discuss further.
Thanks again, Jason, for your time. He's signing off.
Oh, he's still there. He's just muted.
He's signing off. He's
probably
Have fun
hanging out with his
camping.
kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, the kids. I gotta go, guys. I'll be watching the recording though. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
Bye, Jason.
Bye-bye.
It sounds like this would be a good grant for spurge.
Yes.
As we were just talking
Yeah.
about, Spurge being a new entry into the ideas here. So maybe Land Paths and the RCD could get together on that kind of a party.
That would be great. I don't know, I've seen it along the roads, but I don't know where there are other biggish outbreaks in the county. So that would be a good query for,
That's the time to start, apparently. Just saw the curve.
yeah,
Are you in Goldridge or are you in Sonoma?
Goldridge, yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
There we go.
All
Got
right.
that.
When I read that, I wonder if they mean like your full suite of kind of EDRR species, like there's a whole list of early detection, rapid response, high priority species that are specific to certain regions. We at regional parks have a robust EDRR program, and that's how we run our invasive species management. You have, because we just have a lot of land to manage, and we have to prioritize just like the most emergent species. And so when I first read that, I was like, oh, that probably extends to kind of like what would be considered high priority invasives in the vein of EDRR. But that would be like you're saying, that would include more plants that are more well established in the area. So actually getting clarification on that could be good.
Yeah. Yep. Any other thoughts?
I just have a fundamental question. It seems like eligibility is going to non-landowners, non-small landowners, or even large landowners, where that is a huge problem in the area, is the fact that we have so many small landowners. They aren't set up as nonprofit organizations to administer something like this. Has there been feedback to the Prop 4 group on how to incorporate that group into this?
Yeah, and I think typically the grants need to be administered by an organization that can manage them. And then the landowner becomes the recipient of the work. But the landowner doesn't have to manage the grant themselves. So it's kind of like just a different way of structuring things. I think for sure they want private landowners to be able to get the benefit of this program, but without having to actually manage the grants themselves by working with some entity like the Open Space District or Ecology Center or something to help them, get plan the work and get it done.
Is that message getting out to the community though? Because I think they're looking at the eligibility and writing themselves off instead of talk to your local RCD or talk to this group so that you can actually pull your neighbors together and get something done.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think we could all do some outreach to landowners that we know of, or we could even do kind of like a public, announcement to say this is possible and are there folks who are interested. Yeah, thanks,
That's
Kelly.
pretty much what we're doing on the coast, is working with our landowners, to let them know what's available. And that's how we get support for our programs, and why we're able to, put in a grant with 99% of landowners already on board, because they've already, it's already been established that they look to us for helping bring some of those programs and funding to the area, and then they become the recipients of that.
Nice.
Yeah. One thing I would caution them that makes it sometimes hard too is that when you have a landowner that's just a recipient or a group of landowners, then they just rely on you to do all the work. And so part of this, our community outreach now is like the Bloomapalooza is, yes, we're going to continue doing this and we want to protect this area for all of us, but we need your support and we need you to be involved, and that's kind of been evolving over the past few years since we've been bringing grant money to the area. And but and it hasn't been insurmountable, but it is definitely something that we're trying to address.
Right. Yeah. Kathleen.
Now we're seeing Arundo along the Russian River.
Yeah.
Especially the lower part. It came from up above, so that would be potentially something that would be of benefit. It is really sucking the life out of the river, or can in the future.
I had that thought as well, like a large scale county-wide Arundo removal could be a good candidate for this scale of grant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let's go to the online. We have Ben and then Ari, and then we'll go over to Kathleen.
Okay, thank you.
Was thinking with the research component, that's pretty exciting. With the idea that shades of what Jason was talking about earlier about treating up over the ridge, because so many times we've either got county road mowing or projects that stop mid-slope, and so your broom uphill is now casting seeds back down into your area you just treated. So roadside would be a twofer that obviously that's a life safety component downstream and fire related. But it's also something that to Kelly's ask that with research for best practices, I think that would be something we could then share with private landowners on how best to treat mowing, fire, animals, pulling, combinations of. I get it, it's a 3-year deal, so it's a really quick process. But I think that with the initial heavy lift, it would be easier to fund that ongoing research through other opportunities post 3-year grant cycle. So a thought there on the prevailing broom problem here in the county.
Right.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, it does seem like some clarification about what are the sort of targeted weed species here would be good. My reading was that it was something that should be focused on like those early detection rapid response species. And I was looking at the Calypsy like weed ratings, which I know can be sort of tailored to different counties, but for our region, like I don't think Arundo is even on there as like a EDRR species because it's relatively well established. Not to say that we shouldn't be treating it, but if we're, in terms of thinking about what would be a competitive grant, like it would probably be really important to figure that part out. And then the other comment I was going to make is that we at Sonoma RCD have had a lot of inquiries lately about various weed species and how to treat them and if we have any funding for them. And it seems like there's been this big influx recently. And I'm also kind of wondering how we can tie this, if at all, into the like relatively new Sonoma Weed Management Agency. Because I would like to see, I mean, I'm trying to like connect landowners with them, but they don't necessarily have like a lot of resources to help out with that either. So that's just kind of what I'm thinking of at the moment. And I know that also he's not here today, but Colin at our office has been talking with folks from Goldridge about like how to strategize about this. And Adriana, I don't know if you have more insight into that than I do because I haven't been really part of those conversations at this point. But those are sort of my initial thoughts. And I there's a ton of info on the Calypsy website, and there's some good mapping resources that are already available. And I don't have any like, particular thoughts or species beyond that, except I will say like there are some species which have been called out as needing like a high level of surveillance within our county.
Thanks, Ari. We'll have to be careful about calling it the Sonoma Weed Management. That might lead to other inquiries. So let's go to Kathleen and then go to Fred.
I just wanted to emphasize doing outreach, so just taking Spurge as an example, to go through all the landowners through either a small group like the watershed group or even the work I've done with grasslands in Coleman Valley.
Yeah.
And just ask them have you seen this plant?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that could be done either with email and photos or, person to person.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah.
2 comments. One, Arundo. Russian River Keeper has done a lot of work on Arundo, and they should be included in that conversation, both for access, they got boats. And for implementation. And the second is, as Judy was saying, one of the reasons this works is because we've gotten a community forest established with 90+% participants. The RCD is now doing a presentation by Jason and Genevieve on community forestry. And while we've seen it at the RCD, it might be a good something to see here so that we can start scooping up people into a community forest strategy, which I know is both our goal and the RCD's goal.
It's a great idea.
That sounds good. We'd be happy. This is Chris with Supervisor Gore's office, District 4. On the Arundo stuff, I mean, we've invested heavily because of all the multiple benefits and aligned benefits there. Not the least of which is the workforce development and equity and economic benefit to specifically the resilience forest crews, the jobs with justice crews that have been working with Riverkeeper on primarily Arundo removal in the area of the Cal VTP around Fitch Mountain and the Badger Park gravel bar. And we were able to expand the boundary of the VTP a little bit with some help from Marshall and Tuberville. But now the challenge that we're having with that is the maintenance and the retreatment, because that stuff is so resilient.
Yeah.
And trying everything under the sun. But we would be really stoked to follow up on this with Russian Riverkeeper and others and see if there might be a good fit that we could send up to Wade Crowfoot and his team. Resilience Works also is very active with Russian River Keepers on. That was one of their first projects in Sonoma County, I believe. So it looks like Ari, do you have another comment?
Yeah, I do. Sorry.
No worries.
It's hard to do this in the course of a short grant term, but I also do really want to emphasize the fact that something that Jason was touching on is that if you're removing plants, you also should probably be making sure that whatever grows back is what you want it to be. So I would recommend that any sort of weed removal also comes with a question of, how are we going to replant or reseed or, at least do the follow-up maintenance is one thing, but depending on, the type of area that you're treating, replanting or reseeding can be something that can be very beneficial, again, depending on species and area. And I would definitely like to see that be part of anybody's thoughts or planning about this longer term a little bit. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Well, we're starting to run out of time, so I think we better push over to Bryn and have you give us your presentation.
Sounds good. Thank you. Give me one moment just to get it pulled up here. All right. Are you able to see my screen?
It's coming up. Yep, there it is.
Okay, great. Hi, everybody. My name is Bryn Miller. I'm a project manager at Sonoma Ecology Center. We're a nonprofit based in Sonoma Valley. And thanks for the opportunity to tell you a little bit about our forest health proposal. Like Adriana mentioned, it is definitely grants crunch time. So it's awesome to get to share a little bit with you about the work that we've been doing. So just to start off with our big picture goals, the Sonoma Springs Fire Resilience Area is the overall project name for the area that we're hoping to advance with this grant. And the goal is to create community scale defensible space to reduce fire risk for the project area itself and all the natural resources and communities that are up in the hills there, as well as the Sonoma Springs, the city of Sonoma, and the Mission Highlands community. The Sonoma Springs is a disadvantaged community in Sonoma Valley that's really this tight, dense patchwork of houses, and it's an area where we're very concerned about fire risk if a fire were to come down from the hills. And the overall goals, in addition to the defensible space, is to improve ecological health and fire resilience here. We want to make sure our forests are more resilient, our oak woodlands and chaparral are more resilient, and we'd like to also particularly focus on restoring our upper watersheds of Sonoma Creek. In terms of our planning, we co-developed this project with Sonoma Valley Fire District from the start, and our main goal was to figure out where we had shared goals. So where was a priority for fire risk for Mason Lewis, our Captain Mason Lewis, who's our main contact at Sonoma Valley Fire. And then also where's a priority for Sonoma Ecology Center for improving wildlife habitat, plant habitat, and controlling invasives, and overall just improving watershed health. And I'll just say this map here shows a really ambitious plan. This is a very large acreage, and this is our goal in the long term for what we'd like to be doing. Everything that's indicated in yellow, for example, are places where Captain Lewis and would really like to see down the road broadcast burns. But we know that that's a long time coming and that this project is really the first opportunity to start doing some work in those areas and be working with landowners. So for our 2026 grant applications, we're putting in a request for CAL FIRE prevention, CAL FIRE forest health, and then later this summer, we'll be putting in a pre-proposal for the State Coastal Conservancy's wildfire resilience program for some of the public and protected lands in this area. And like I just mentioned, one of our overarching grant goals here is to get an initial investment of grant dollars so that we can do a first entry of treatments into many of these potential future large broadcast burn acres. So how did we get here? Some of you might have seen reporting from the Greenbelt Alliance or recognize this area from the Sonoma County Wildfire Adapted Grant Project area. This has been a top priority for Sonoma Valley Fire District for treatments in Sonoma Valley, and it's been among top priorities for our CAL FIRE partners in the area. We were supported by the county's vegetation management program to start work at our very first site in the area at Western Gravel this past December, and big shout out to Kim. It's been amazing to have that seed funding, and I don't think any of this would be happening without the support of the program. For me, I was not familiar with CAL FIRE grants, and I didn't even think it was a fit for us to apply for forest health since it's, so adjacent to communities. So again, big thanks to Kim for reaching out in March to confirm we were applying for this grant, which set off this whole process. Kim confirmed that he and FireSafe Sonoma had discussed submitting several large proposals from Sonoma County, and we were able to do an early consult with Ben and FireSafe Sonoma to help us really nail down the project boundaries and where we should be looking to work. Captain Mason Lewis has been working on the fire side to coordinate with our partners from the fire districts, and I know he's worked with Sean Jerry on project design throughout the spring, and again, he's really leading the fire engagement side there. A couple things I'd highlight that have worked well has been landowner engagement. We've done a lot of outreach using SEC's existing community connections. We did 31 site visits with property owners in April and May, and we got confirmation from 25 landowners at this point for a defined scope of work to do projects on 1,163 acres, which is super exciting. That includes 5 vineyards who are committed for broadcast burns and 3 vineyards who are open to continuing the conversation and starting site prep. So we've been really thrilled with the level of response we've gotten from the community. And one thing that worked well was this extremely long, like 20-page landowner packet that I sent to people, which hopefully got ahead of some of the questions that they might have had. Another thing to highlight is our compliance. We're using the governor's emergency suspension as our compliance route. We have 690 acres approved and another about 1,100 submitted over the whole project area to hopefully give us some more flexibility if we need to be changing around units. That was a one-time opportunity to lock in compliance for grants, and I think that's been given us a lot of streamlined efficiencies. Sonoma RCD has confirmed that they'll write us a notice of exemption if needed to amend our suspension, and that's really great to have that flexibility. We have them in our budget for our forest health proposal as kind of a CEQA backup if needed for this.
Also, I think it's important to highlight the BTP for the valley as another compliance element to that.
Yes, definitely. I talked to Jason about this recently, and he thinks for our specific needs, the notice of exemption might be a better approach, but thank you for highlighting that, Kim. It's so awesome to have that tool in the toolbox. The last couple things I'd say about our project, to get more specific about exactly what we're going to be submitting for forest health, we're going to be applying for fuels reduction across 650 acres of the map I showed you, and pile burning across about 800 acres. And we also have about 85 acres that we're going to commit to for broadcast burning. That's across 4 units that total 181 acres in total. But we're assuming, we don't want to overcommit and overpromise in this grant. We would rather undercommit and then over deliver if possible. So, we have these 4 units that we think we can tackle. We're planning to commit to units that use internal control lines to split the units and get smaller chunks done. And we're also going to have, per CAL FIRE's guidance, a backup plan included in the grant for where we'll reallocate this money if we run into challenges. I'm sure we'll have no trouble, getting broadcast burns off. There'll be no issues with weather, no issues with fire season, no problems with vintners, no problems with landowners backing out. But just in case, we're going to have a backup plan for really clear about where we're going to reallocate that money. In addition, per CAL FIRE's guidance, we're going to have some stretch acreage about, if everything goes really well, this is what we think we can do with this money. And finally, the piece SEC is really excited about is focused invasives removal and reseeding after pile and broadcast burns. I think that's really in line with some of the other things we've heard in this proposal about how, good fire is only really good fire if you have that pre and post follow-up. So that was really important to us to reserve some money for. And gully stuffing, culvert repair, and some biochar kiln burns. And that takes us to our partners. We have some great workforce development partners going to be working with us. Fire Forward's in our grant, Temra's in our grant. The Sonoma RCD is going to be helping us out with compliance and gully stuffing, and Brock will be also helping us out with gully stuffing. So yeah, huge thank you. I know a lot of you on this call have been really instrumental to supporting our project and getting us to the point that we are. That's all I have to say about it, but I'm happy to follow up about any elements of it, and just want to say again how much we appreciate everyone's support getting us to this point.
Fantastic. That's awesome. Thank you, Bryn. We really appreciate the download. It's a dynamic project, and we really appreciate you thinking at multiple scales. I think that's one of the true attributes of the efforts you guys are doing, and bringing in different partners that such as Sonoma Valley Fire District and getting their buy-in. I know Sean Jerry from CAL FIRE has also been supportive of the work out there. So congrats on bringing the partners together and getting the work done.
Thank you.
Great. Well, great. And if there's time, I think we have a few more minutes for any other applicants to share about their applications. And Emma, I don't know if you wanted to say a few words. It's okay if you don't have any slides prepared.
Yes, I was going to say, I don't have a beautiful presentation like Bryn. That was so great to be able to visualize it and speak to it. And also, I am so I'm Emma from Conservation Works. We are going to be the applicants to the CAL FIRE Forest Health Grant. And we are going to be like the program management and administration piece. And we have wonderful partners that we're applying with as Gold Ridge and Sonoma RCD, Friends of the Mark West Creek, Safer West County, Camp Meeker Rec and Park District, Environmental Resource Solutions, as well as 14 plus different private landowners. Some including our locations include wineries and vineyards. And Adriana can help with any technical questions if there are, because I'm better at the numbers side of things. But just as a quick overview of the project that we're submitting, we're asking for approximately $7.4 million to treat 1,100 acres in Sonoma County. So just as some background, our project is named the Sonoma County Partnership for Community, Forest, and Climate Resilience to treat over 1,100 acres of mostly small, private, non-industrial forest land to reduce hazardous fuels, respond to and mitigate sudden oak death, outbreaks, restore fire-affected forests, and improve and restore oak woodlands. This project also supports continued project development for future phases of implementation and ongoing community education around forest health issues. The proposed projects were inspired by several years of education and planning in and around communities in Camp Meeker, Geyserville, Healdsburg, Monte Rio, Occidental, and Santa Rosa in Sonoma County. This is really wonderful brainchild of Jason Wells from Sonoma Resource Conservation District and has been built on and partnered on by our lovely partners. Yeah, and if I have a list of proposed treatments and project areas. So if anybody has any questions on that, we're happy to share. But I want to leave enough time in case anybody else wants to share. And I think Adriana might be pulling up the map. There we go. I was thinking that might be a nice visual. So this is the map of proposed project areas.
And so I'll just, we can point them out real quick that there's a project on the Cooley Ranch up in the North County. Gosh, I wish I could speak to exactly what's happening at each of these, but I can't. We also have another Lytton Springs area project, primarily happening on Gallo Vineyards. And we have another project in the Mark West, working with Lynn and her neighbors.
That's a shaded fuel break along various ridges.
Yes, yeah. And then this is Oddfellows over here in West County, maintaining their fuel break and expanding, I think, fuels reduction down the slope of the fuel break. And then we have a complex of projects in the Bohemian area. And I have actually a couple slides I just presented to Camp Meeker Rec and Park earlier this week. So nice. We can just zoom in on one project. All the projects are fairly complex, but this one's, I think, maybe the most. And it has these landowners labeled. So we've got a kind of a fuel break on the ridge above Kistler Vineyard and Mount Gilead. Similar kind of ridgetop work between Westminster and Alliance. And then kind of circling the Camp Meeker community, there is some ridgetop work happening here and then onto the adjacent private properties. And yeah, these projects were, they target the camps and communities of Camp Meeker primarily. There are other properties in the area that we could have worked with, but these felt like some of the higher priority given the populations that they're protecting and the usefulness of the ridgetop placement. And yeah, our goals for this area are to remove trees that are infected with sudden oak death, both dying and dead, managing invasive plants, primarily that's broom, reducing wildfire fuels and improving spacing. And the treatments will include thinning, mastication, a commercial timber harvest, burn unit prep and broadcast burning, pile burning, site prep for planting. And yeah, our forester, Jason Wells, will be managing the project. So that's one of the five project areas. And yeah, like Emma said, we put this together with a group of folks. And it was, yeah, the forest health proposals are a huge effort, a huge undertaking. I feel like there's a lot of really quality projects in the county that could have been a part of this proposal. And we started with this kind of like, this kind of smallish group of projects and have been taking it from there. And it's kind of amazing. It's amazing how much goes into these, as anyone who's been preparing applications can speak to. It's like, it's a whole project. I don't know if we ever want to do it again.
This is year 2. Jason said if it doesn't happen this year, we're done. We're not trying. Yeah, but we're hopeful and excited to see just great projects in general happening in Sonoma County with this funding. So excited to be invited to apply.
When I saw the map that you guys constructed, I started realizing that 4 out of the 5 sites have BTPs that were funded by the Veg Management Grant. So nice. It's super exciting to see like the next iteration. That was the intention, was to try to get the environmental compliance completed under the BTP. We've got a lot of the resource studies completed. So now we can just do implementation. I think that's a huge upside of these proposals, is that we have the groundwork laid. Now it's just a matter of getting implementation done. So thank you guys for following up on that. Looks like a great project.
Thank you, Kim.
Cool.
All right, I see it.
Thanks a lot, folks. Nailed it. Check. We'll see you guys. Thank you very much for participating today. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you,
everyone.
everybody.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you,
Thank
Brad.
you.
Thank you,
Bye.
Emma.
Thanks all. Bye.
All right, folks. Thank you for participating in-house and enjoying the nice